Thank you for clicking on this video. Behind the high iron fence and the always neat garden stands a magnificent house with European architecture. From the outside, life inside looks perfect, calm, luxurious, flawless. However, who would have thought that behind the large glass windows on the second floor there is a woman who is learning to survive in silence and wounds. Jessie. 38 years old, beautiful, rich, and once so happy. But since 4 months ago her life has changed forever. A tragic accident on the way home from a family vacation took everything. Her beloved husband and one child Satania died on the spot while Jessie survived. But not intact. Her leg bones were broken, her body was injured, and her soul was destroyed. Now she is still undergoing intensive care at home, sitting in a wheelchair with very limited mobility. Her days are filled with silence and memories. Memories of family photos on the bedside table, her child's toys still arranged in the corner of the living room, and her husband's clothes still hanging in the closet. All are silent witnesses to a loss that is too great to explain. Jessie has no close family, her parents are gone. Distant relatives only come occasionally. The only person who still accompanies her is Mbak Rini, the housekeeper who faithfully takes care of her every morning until evening. But when night comes, Jessie is alone again, accompanied by pain and loneliness that hangs on every wall of the house. In her wounded heart, Jessie no longer recognizes herself. The life that used to be full of plans now seems to have lost its direction. However, behind all the destruction, there is a small glimmer of light that slowly grows. Whether it is hope or just a desire to stand up again literally or spiritually. For almost a week, Jessie has noticed how Rini looks increasingly overwhelmed. The middle-aged woman has to clean the house, prepare food, and also help Jessie move from the bedroom to the living room, from the wheelchair to the bed, and vice versa. Although she never complains, Jessie knows that Rini's burden is not light. One afternoon in the midst of a cloudy and cold atmosphere, Jessie calls Rini, who is sweeping on the terrace. "Rin." Jessie's voice is soft but quite firm. "I think you need help. I also don't like seeing you alone all the time." Quote. Rini turned her head with a small smile. "It's okay, Mom. I accept it. But if you really need more friends at home, I'll think about it." Quote. And Rini kept her promise. For several days, she was busy contacting her siblings, looking for someone she could trust to help Yi, especially someone who could stay at home so that Jessie wouldn't be alone too often at night. Then on a cool Friday, a young man came to the big house. He was carrying a large backpack on his back, wearing a simple shirt and black pants. His face was clean, his expression calm, polite but a little nervous. His name was Ahmad, Rini's nephew from a village in central Java. Only 24 years old, a vocational high school graduate, he had recently moved to the city to look for work. Jessie looked at the young man from her wheelchair, from behind the living room table. His face was flat, but there was a curious look in his eyes. "You're Ahmad, right?" Jessie asked quietly. "Yes, Mom," Ahmad replied while lowering his head. "Auntie, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm ready to help you as much as I can, ma'am." "What are my duties, ma'am?" Jessie took a deep breath and smiled a little. "Your duties are simple. Just take care of me. Help me if I need to move. Help me get things. Chat with me when I'm lonely. The rest, if you're relaxed and want to help, Rini, please do. But it's not mandatory." Ahmad nodded quickly. "God willing." "Ready, ma'am. I'm learning slowly." It's been almost a week since Ahmad lived in the big house. Since the first day, Jessie could feel one thing. The young man was different. He might only be a vocational high school graduate and came from the village, but his attitude was sincere, his hands were agile, and most importantly, his heart felt warm. Every morning before Jessie woke up, Ahmad was already up first. He prepared warm water to wash his face, checked his medication schedule, and even folded his blanket neatly. Rini even chuckled a few times seeing him. "So enthusiastic, I was right to recommend you," said Rini while feeding him lunch one day. Ahmad also had one little habit that made Yessi secretly smiling. Often talking, sometimes about very simple, even trivial things. But it was from there that Yessi felt her life slowly regaining its color. Quote, "I wonder, Mom," said Ahmad one afternoon as they sat on the terrace facing the garden. "Why are the roses being pruned more often? In fact, there are more flowers." Yessi turned her head slowly, smiling slightly. "Maybe because she knows that life is about growing after loss." Quote, Yessi answered. Ahmad stared at her for a moment in silence then nodded. "Yes, that's right, just like humans, Mom." Quote, Ahmad answered. Their conversations were sometimes about flowers, sometimes about village food, sometimes about Ahmad's childhood which was full of funny stories and simplicity. Ahmad never brought up Yessi's past, unless Yessi herself told the story. And when that happened, he listened without interrupting, just being silent and present, and sometimes that was more than enough. Yessi never thought that in her pain, she could feel comfortable with someone so far from her old world. The nights that used to be quiet were now filled with light chatter, small laughter, and a cup of tea that Ahmad prepared with great care. In her still wounded heart, a small space began to grow. A place where sadness no longer has full power. A place where the presence of someone just to listen and accompany can change silence into something bearable. Days passed without being felt. The atmosphere of the house that used to be quiet and cold was now filled with small laughter and light jokes. Yes, who used to just stare at the ceiling of her room while crying silently, now began to smile again, smiles that were not faked, sincere, born from a heart that was slowly healing. Ahmad was a big part of that change. Every day he carried out his duties with all his heart. He knew when Yessi needed company, when she wanted to be alone, and how to lighten the atmosphere when Yessi's mind started to feel gloomy. Sometimes with funny stories from her childhood, sometimes just by sitting beside Yessi while watching television together. Their relationship remained within polite limits, but warm like two humans who took care of each other without many words. Then came the day exactly 1 month since Ahmad first came. That morning after breakfast, Yessi called Ahmad into the office. In his hand was already a thick white envelope that he was holding tightly. "Met," he said softly with a smile. "This is for you, your first salary." Ahmad lowered his head to receive the envelope with both hands. "Thank you, Mom. I feel bad. You've been so kind all this time." "Please open it first," Yessi interrupted softly. Hesitantly, Ahmad opened the envelope and started counting the contents. As soon as the amount started to become clear, his face immediately changed. His hands trembled slightly. His eyes widened. "I can't believe it, Mom. It's 50 million. His voice was almost a whisper as if he couldn't believe what he was seeing was real. Yessi nodded. "I know you never asked for anything. But this isn't just because you worked to help me. This is because you've helped me stand up again even though I'm still in a wheelchair." Ahmad lowered his head. His heart was pounding not because of the amount of money, but because of those words. "I thought my life was over," Yessi continued softly. "Every day I feel alone and empty, but since you came, for some reason I feel like I have hope again. Not just because you helped me physically, but because you were there sincerely and I am truly grateful." Ahmad was silent, holding back the tears that were about to fall. Not because of the money, but because he had just realized one important thing. That sometimes what we can give is not something big, it's enough to be a human being who is truly present for others. Yessi said, "I should be the one thanking you. I have nothing, but here I feel important." Quote. Time went by and Yi became more accustomed to Ahmad's presence in her house. Something that used to feel awkward now became the thing she looked forward to the most every day. The sound of a soft knock on the bedroom door, light chats in the afternoon, and even small laughter as they watched completely unimportant TV shows. The feelings that Yessi used to think were just comfortable now began to change quietly without her realizing it. Her heart began to be filled with Ahmad, a simple man who didn't talk much, but his presence was always calming. She began to get used to paying attention to small details. The way Ahmad brewed tea with the right amount, the way he neatly arranged Yessie's blanket, and Ahmad's shy smile when praised. All of that slowly made Yessie's heart tremble in a different way. Until one day the incident came. That day Rini didn't come in. She told Paji that her child had a high fever and had to be taken to the health center. Yessie certainly understood, but in her heart she was a little nervous. Because usually at night and her body was starting to get tired, Rini was the one who helped move her from the wheelchair to the bed. Late afternoon, Yessie felt her body starting to ache. She looked at the clock on the wall and called Ahmad, who was tidying up the kitchen. "Met, can you help me move to bed?" she asked softly. Ahmad turned his head a little surprised. "Yes, ma'am, I can. Sorry, I'm afraid I'm wrong." Yessie interrupted with a smile. "Just call me Yessie. Don't be too formal tonight." Ahmad lowered his head. His face turned red. "Okay, mbake." Carefully, Ahmad approached. He squatted beside the wheelchair, then looked at Yessie, asking for approval with his eyes. "Ready, okay, just take it slow," he said softly, with a caring movement. Ahmad's hand embraced Ye's back, while the other hand supported her knee, which was still recovering. Yessie, who was usually awkward when too close to someone, felt calm and warm as her body was lifted slowly. The two of them stared at each other for a moment. But there was something behind that gaze, something more than just attention, more than just comfort, a beat that couldn't be explained, but felt so real. Yessie realized that her body wasn't the only one being moved. Her heart slowly moved to Ahmad's presence. When she was lying on the bed, Ahmad adjusted her pillow and pulled the blanket up to her chest. They were still silent, no one spoke, but the awkward yet warm gaze lingered between them. Yessie finally said, her voice almost a whisper. "If I ever acted wrongly, I'm sorry. I just want to always make back calm." Yessie looked at him, her eyes soft. "You're not wrong, Ahmad. You actually make me feel alive again." When Ahmad was about to leave, Yessie suddenly called out, "Why don't you come here first? I'm not sleepy yet." Ahmad smiled. "Okay, Mom." When Yessie asked for medicine, her movement unconsciously lifted her cloth, and indeed she usually only wore simple clothes to make it easier to treat the wound on her leg. Ahmad glanced occasionally, but didn't think anything strange. However, something surprising happened when Ahmad handed him the medicine. Yessie pulled his hand so that he almost fell on Yessie. They didn't say anything. However, a few moments passed. Yessie again asked Ahmad to fix his blanket. When he did, Yessie lifted the cloth instead. Whether he forgot or not, Yessie really didn't wear a cloth covering her garden. Ahmad swallowed. His heart was beating fast. Every now and then he tried to avoid it, but Yessie whispered instead. "I want to water my garden, Ahmad. It's okay, right? That's if you want." Ahmad just smiled and was confused. But when he wanted to refuse, something he wanted happened. Carefully, Ahmad slowly watered Yessie's garden. His movements were not too fast because he was afraid of hitting the wound on Yessie's leg. Quote, "Well, that's it. The important thing is until it floods," said Yessie. After almost 1 hour, Yessie's garden was seen flooded very abundantly. Ahmad finished it. Even after that he cleaned Yessie's flood until all of her garden was clean. Yessie smiled, spoiled and happy. Several days had passed since that meaningful night. Although nothing had changed visibly, Yessie's heart could no longer deny it. That feeling had grown roots and demanded to be recognized. Yessie began to pay attention to every detail of Ahmad in a different way. The way he smiled when he brought tea, his serious face when he fed medicine, to the gaze of his eyes that sometimes accidentally bumped into Yessie's gaze and then was quickly diverted nervously. There was a warmth that could no longer be ignored, and Yessie knew that no matter how hard she held it back, her heart wanted to tell the truth. One quiet night, light rain wet the bedroom window. Ahmad was helping Yessi tidy up the blanket when suddenly Yessi said in a low but steady voice, "I want to say something." Ahmad stopped his movements and turned his head. "Waves." Yessi looked at him. Her eyes were slightly glassy. "I don't know how to say it. But I feel like you're not just a nurse to me. You were more than that. You were there when my life was ruined. You made me laugh again, believe again, and honestly I want you to stay here. Not just to take care of me, but to accompany me. I want you to be my lover." Matt. The atmosphere immediately became silent. All that could be heard was the sound of the raindrops and the beating of Ahmad's heart. Ahmad's face suddenly felt like a war drum in his chest. Ahmad's face turned red. He didn't answer right away, his head lowered. Both of his hands clasped together nervously. "I didn't expect it, MBAK. I'm just a villager, a vocational high school graduate. I have nothing. I'm afraid I'm not worthy." Yessi smiled softly. "Love doesn't need a diploma, Matt. I just need someone who is sincere, and you've given me that since the first day you came." Ahmad lifted his head. Their gazes met, and this time neither of them looked away. There was a strange vibration in my chest, but also incredible relief. I also felt the same, MBAK. Since the beginning I felt different, but I held it in because I was afraid of being wrong. But if MBAK is sure, I don't want to lie to this feeling either. Yes, I want to. Yessi hugged Ahmad tightly. When Yessi asked to be helped to move to the rest area again, she invited Ahmad to plant in her garden again. Ahmad did not refuse. Yessi, who was only wearing a simple suit, did not have any trouble. She just lifted it even though she could not freely show off her style because Yessi's wound had not healed completely. After finishing, as usual, Ahmad cleaned up the remaining mess in Yessi's garden. Yessi's face looked spoiled with her smile when Ahmad sincerely cleaned her garden. Occasionally Ahmad noticed it. It was really beautiful and well maintained. Every day they maintained their attitude in front of others. Ahmad still called MBAK Yessi with respect, and Yessi still treated Ahmad like staff. But when night fell and the world became quieter, they stole time from each other to share stories, smiles, and sometimes gentle handshake that meant more than 1,000 words. That day, Yessi sat in the living room wearing a soft blue casual dress. The morning sunlight came in through the large window and the aroma of tea from her cup was calming. In the corner of the room, Ahmad was sweeping the front yard. Occasionally Yessi turned to him, a small smile never absent from her face. Her happiness was simple. Seeing the person she loved was near her. But in the midst of that warmth, there was one thing that bothered Yessi. She noticed Ahmad's clothes that were starting to get shabby. The color had faded and his small cell phone was still an old model with a small screen and a loud fan. Sometimes Yessi saw Ahmad having difficulty opening WhatsApp messages from Rini because it took too long to load. Yessi sighed and then called Rini, who had just arrived that morning. Rin said softly but firmly, "Later please buy clothes for Ahmad. Also a new cell phone, that's pretty good. Poor him. It seems like it's really hard to open messages." Rini immediately turned her head. Her eyebrows raised. "Buy a cell phone and clothes." "Ma'am, for Ahmad's." Yessi answered lightly. Quote, "Ma'am, I'll transfer the money later." Rini was silent for a moment. Her expression changed between confused and suspicious. Quote, "Sorry, ma'am, I'm not interfering, but why did Ahmad buy something like that?" Yessi smiled. This time they could no longer hide what they had kept to themselves. Quote, "Ahmad is my boyfriend now, Rin." Rini immediately fell silent. Her mouth was half open, as if the words were too big to be understood immediately. Quote, "Girlfriend, Mrs. Yessi." "Yes," Yessi answered calmly. "I know this may be unusual, it may even sound strange. But have you seen how empty I used to be? Sad, directionless. Ahmad made me come back to life. I don't care where he came from. I just know he's sincere and I love him." Rini was still silent for a while. Then she took a deep breath and smiled broadly. Wow, I was really surprised, Mom, but if it makes you happy, I'm happy too. My nephew is indeed a good boy. If he can take care of Mom's heart, I support him. Yessie immediately smiled in relief. Thank you, Rin. I was afraid you would mind. The important thing is that Mom recovers and is happy. Just be prepared for the neighbors to gossip about you later. Rini said with a chuckle. They laughed together. And that day was a form of gratitude and also warmth that she wanted to share. Yessie said, oh yeah, you too, Rin. Choose the clothes you like. Just think of this as a gift from me. You've been with me for a long time and I love you too. Rini held back her tears, her eyes filled with tears. Oh, Mom, I could cry now. That day, it was not only Ahmad who received a gift, but everyone who had been sincere around Yessie also felt the warmth of the love that she began to share again. And without realizing it, a small family began to form. Time passed, the seasons changed, and so did Yessie's condition. After months of therapy and routine care, the day finally arrived. A day that he could only imagine. From a wheelchair, Yessie could now stand and walk again, albeit slowly. At first, just a few steps, then it became smoother and now she could climb the short stairs in her own yard. Ahmad watched it up close with emotion. He never missed Yessie's leg training sessions, sometimes encouraging her with his signature jokes that always managed to make Yessie laugh. But today was different. Today, Ahmad knew that his main task was complete. On a quiet afternoon, Yessie sat on the balcony of the house enjoying a cup of warm tea. Ahmad sat on the chair across from her, watching her with a faint smile. Mom, Ahmad said softly. His voice seemed to want to be kept, but he couldn't. Yessie corrected him with a mischievous smile. Ahmad grinned shyly and continued, Miss Yessie, that means I'm not working here anymore, right, Mom? Miss Yessie has recovered. Quote. Yessie turned to look at Ahmad, who looked a little sad as if preparing to accept a bitter decision. But what happened was the opposite. Yessie smiled sweetly and meaningfully and then softly said while approaching. In fact, now you don't need to bother taking care of this and that. No more moving me from my wheelchair or taking me to the therapy room. She got closer until she sat next to Ahmad. Then with a teasing tone and sparkling eyes, she continued, now your job is just to accompany me every day until I'm old. Ahmad smiled stiffly, his face instantly turning red. But before he could answer, Yessie grabbed his hand and pulled him into a warm hug. I'm serious, Matt. Yessie whispered softly on his shoulder. You've become a part of my life. Not because you helped me when I was sick, but because you brought a color that I've never seen before. Ahmad fell silent, returning the hug slowly. In that silence, his heart beat faster than usual, but not because of fear, because of happiness, because of relief. Quote. I also don't want to be far from you, Ahmad finally said softly. I thought I was just working, but it turns out I really fell in love. Their hug was tight, warm, simple, but thrilling. In that moment, Yessie suddenly held Ahmad's stick. Now it's my turn to fight. Come on. Unexpectedly, her movements in watering Yessie's garden were really very experienced. Now it was only discovered when she had recovered. Because when she was sick she was just quiet. Now she is the one who is very active and enthusiastic. In fact, only 15 minutes later, Ahmad's stick was the first to flood. Yessie smiled spoiledly while teasing Ahmad. Yes, that's all you can do, Ahmad. Okay, take a rest first. Later when you're done, we'll continue again. Ahmad enjoyed his coffee for a moment while looking at the beauty of the garden and the mountain. Yessie, who was without any cloth covering her. After that they continued it again. Various movements that were very charming Yessie did. Ahmad was really like a king at that time, even to the point that Yessie's garden flooded several times. After that, do you want to clean my garden again? Ahmad smiled and cleaned it. Although Yessie was now able to be on her own, A few weeks after Yessi had fully recovered, the atmosphere of the house changed. It was no longer like the home of a sick woman who was being treated, but a lively home, filled with laughter, warm love, and plans for the future. One night, Yessi and Ahmad sat together on the back porch, looking at the bright sky full of stars. There was silence for a moment until Yessi opened the conversation softly. "Matt, I want to know something." Ahmad turned his head. "What, miss?" Yessi stared at him deeply. "Have you ever had an ambition or a dream that hasn't come true?" Ahmad looked down for a moment. He took a hesitant breath and then answered slowly. "I once wanted to go to college, miss. But yeah, after graduating from vocational school, my parents couldn't afford it. I worked here and there. I used to want to major in engineering or at least management. But I think that dream is closed." Yessi listened to him attentively. Her heart was touched. "Why didn't you ever tell me?" she asked softly. Ahmad shrugged. "I thought for someone like me, dreams are a luxury. Besides, I'm also quite happy to be able to work here and be close to MBAK Yessi." Yessi smiled slightly then nodded slowly. "You know, Matt? That's what makes me more confident in you. You work hard, don't demand much, but have a dream. And I want you to chase that dream." Ahmad looked at Yessi confused. "I mean, Mba." Yessi then stood up and walked for a while, then turned to look at Ahmad with a look of conviction in her eyes. "I mean, you have to go to college. This year I'll take care of all the costs. Administration, books, laptop, everything. I've looked for a good private campus in this city. I don't want you to just be a spectator in your own life. I want you to be someone who is proud of yourself, because I'm also proud to have you." Ahmad was completely silent, his eyes red. He never imagined that his childhood dream would be revived by a woman who not only loved him, but also believed in him. "But it's expensive, MBAK, I feel bad." Yessi approached and held his hand. "I don't think of it as a burden. In fact, I think of it as an investment for your future and our future." Ahmad stared at Yessi for a long time then nodded slowly. "If so, I promise I will study hard for MBAK and for myself." Yessi smiled emotionally and in her heart she had one big hope. One day when Ahmad is standing tall as a more prepared, more confident person, she wants to take their relationship to a more serious level. Marriage time goes quickly when the heart is filled with hope. Without realizing it, Ahmad has now officially become a student. Every morning he goes to college with a simple backpack and an enthusiastic smile. And every afternoon when he returns home, he immediately opens his books, turns on his laptop, and starts reviewing his lessons. By his side, Yessi always faithfully accompanies him, sometimes just with a cup of tea and sitting quietly near him, sometimes helping to find references, even occasionally listening to Ahmad's explanations like a study buddy. Yessi never felt bored. Instead, he felt his life was filled with new energy seeing Ahmad learning, being challenged, and developing. All of that made his heart warm and proud. Years passed and finally the long-awaited day arrived. Ahmad graduated with laude honors. Graduation day was an unforgettable moment. Among the sea of togas and congratulations, Ahmad looked for the one face that meant the most to him. And when his eyes met Yessi, who was waiting outside the hall with a smile and teary eyes, he knew that all his struggles were not in vain. "I graduated, MBAK, he said while hugging Yessi tightly. Full of gratitude. Yessi held back tears. "I knew you could. I believed from the start, Matt." But their story didn't end there. A few weeks after graduation, Ahmad started to get busy applying for jobs. He attended several interviews. But every time he returned, his face always showed a little disappointment. Not because he was rejected, but because he felt he hadn't found a place that suited his idealism. Yessi noticed all of that, and finally one night she invited Ahmad to have a serious talk in the office. "Matt, I know you have extraordinary capacity, and I don't want you to waste your energy on a place that doesn't appreciate your abilities." Ahmad listened silently. "I've thought about this carefully. How about we open our own business? A business that suits your major and your interests. I'll help with the capital. You manage it. I believe you can." Ahmad was shocked but also touched. "Really, MBAK? Our own business?" "Yes. This is not a gift. This is trust. You form the team. You design the concept. I only support from behind. Just think of this as our first step in building a future together." And that's how a few months later a business based on technology and small and medium management solutions. Ahmad led directly as a young director, while Yessi took the role of advisor and majority shareholder. The business grew. Slowly but surely, clients began to come. Ahmad's name began to be known among local professionals. And all that happened because of one thing. There was love that grew in trust and support that never wavered. In Yessi's heart, she knew that when Ahmad was mentally, emotionally, and professionally ready, then their next step would no longer be about business, but about living as a whole family. Several years have passed since Ahmad came to Yessi's house with a small bag and a heart full of humility. Now he stands proudly wearing a simple but neat suit side by side with the woman who changed his life. Yi this afternoon appeared graceful in an elegant white kebaya. Her smile bloomed like a flower blooming because of love. That day they got married without a big party, without flashy luxury. Only attended by close family and loyal friends. But in the eyes of both of them, that day was the most magnificent day of their lives. Rini cried happily. She never expected the relationship that she had once doubted would now turn into a true love story. Many guests came with a sense of awe because this love was not ordinary love. This was love that grows from wounds, from sincerity, from a long journey full of acceptance and hope. Yessi held Ahmad's hand tightly. "I used to think my life was over when I lost my husband and child," she said softly. "But it turns out that life gave me a second chance in a form that I never expected." Ahmad looked at her lovingly. "I came to this house just to help, but when I went home I found my real home. Home in your heart. True love doesn't always come with luxury. Sometimes it comes in the simplest form. A young man from the village and a woman who has lost hope. But when hearts understand each other, when loyalty and trust grow, then love becomes a healing force." Yessi and Ahmad have proven that age, background, and past cannot beat true love. Because in the end, happiness is not about who you choose from the world, but who makes you want to live in this world a little longer, a little stronger, and much more meaningful. And they live happily not because their lives are perfect, but because they choose to complement each other every day with love. That's the ending of this story. I say thank you very much to those of you who have always faithfully supported this channel. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Thank you. Yeah.